with you. Right, well, thank you very much for having us along. I'm Suki Thompson. This is Jan Cook. We also have Sue Church up in the audience there. We are from Friends of Banks Peninsula, and we're going to be talking about one topic, which is the Akara wastewater system. So just get to grips with how to work this. Right, we last came before you a year ago talking to the long-term plan, and I've got a slide up here with a summary of the issues we raised then. The main point is, we said to you we thought the resource consent application for the Akara wastewater system was not consentable in its present form. There were a number of issues with it, failing to achieve its cultural objectives, leaking pipes, less resilience to climate change, and costs set to increase. Here we are a year later, and the current situation has played out as we predicted, but at a huge cost to our community, both financially and in terms of voluntary time. So the resource consent hearings started in November. They are now on hold, pending the council lodging overflow discharge consents, and the panel has asked 50 tough questions of the council. We've submitted the questions along with our written submission. They demonstrate the breadth of the issues, risks, and uncertainties with this project. There's no commitment from the staff at this stage to answer these questions, and they have, again, delayed responding to the discharge resource consent timeline, so response is not now expected until May, back to the hearing panel as to when things might get going again. And at the same time, it's been advertised in our local paper in a bulletin from the council that the staff are reviewing whether land irrigation remains the preferred disposal option. So what I'd like to do now is cover off four main issues with the project. Is by no means all of the issues, but these are four high-level ones. First of all, it's not going to be 100% land disposal. The staff now accept this is not possible, but the overflows are not infrequent, as is being stated, for example, to our community board earlier this week. The most recent modelling by your consultants, PDP, showed that treated wastewater overflows would occur once in every 2.5 years. They are overflow seasons, meaning there could be multiple overflows during that season, generally the winter, and they could be up to 13% of the wastewater, or 40,000 cubic metres, lasting for 32 days or more. Experts agree that further overflows are likely due to irrigation conditions to avoid land saturation and runoff. So effectively, this scheme has become a dual discharge system, part to land, part to harbour. So the question is, where in the harbour? And I'm putting up this map here, which was put up for our community board again on Monday this week, showing where the potential overflows will go. Now that, I've circled it in yellow so you can see it. That is that main car park when you first come into Akara, where the boat launching is and where a whole lot of recreational activities take place. And what the staff informed the community board is that the overflows will either take place right on the foreshore or either 100, 200 or 300 metres out. And with the statement that 300 metres out would be getting very expensive. Now, disposal to this area is totally unacceptable. This is a high public use recreational area. That's where our boat launch is, kayak launching, all sorts of recreational activities there. It is a shallow, poorly flushing, ecologically sensitive tidal estuary, and raw and treated overflows will be concentrated in this area. There has been absolutely no consultation whatsoever with the Akara community about this idea. There has only been consultation with the Runanga. And I bring this up because the Runanga have actually said yes to this. So this is disposal of treated wastewater to the harbour with a 2-day retention time in a wetland that would be higher up the hill near the treatment plant. That is a very significant shift in their viewpoint, a 2-day retention time in a wetland, and significant to opening up other opportunities that might be a lot more sensible than this awful idea. The next issue we have is that now the devotional system, which was going to be completely separate, is to be combined with Akaroa. The community has never been consulted on the idea of combining the two. It was only consulted on two separate systems. There are no council resolutions covering this combination. There's very little information about how it worked practically in the public domain. And most worrying, the application for the devotional irrigation field has been repeatedly delayed, and we suspect this is because it is running into serious issues itself. The third issue we have is that the treatment standard has been reduced. Now, all through that consultation, 2015 to 2020, it was ultrafiltration that was promised to the community that would remove things like bacteria and viruses from the wastewater. But now it has been downgraded, and it was only introduced at the hearing by the council's applicant's evidence to a sequenced batch reactor SBR process, which is a gravity rather than a filtration process. We asked Google to explain the difference to us, and it told us that you would use SBR, the sequenced batch reactor, when you wanted a basic level of wastewater treatment where handling variable flow rates is important and where cost-effective operation is the priority, whereas you would have ultrafiltration when you wanted high-level wastewater quality for reuse applications, when you wanted to remove very small particles such as bacteria and viruses, and situations where consistent effluent quality is critical. Well, that's the standard of treatment we want if this wastewater is to be disposed of to land in our communities or into our harbour, not the lower standard of treatment. And the fourth issue is still infiltration. We've talked to you about storm and groundwater infiltration before. It remains very high in wet winters. It is the main cause of both raw overflows and seepage of sewage out to the beach, causing beach closures. And it is the I&I, the infiltration, the huge spikes in winter that cause the need for such a large and expensive system, requiring 10 Olympic swimming pools worth of treated wastewater storage, overflows still occurring every couple of winters when these are full, and a treatment plant needing to cope with high flow variability. And finally, we want to point out here that the I&I figures given by the staff, both at the hearing and to the community board, are misleading because they keep quoting annual averages, which the dry summer offsets the wet winter, masks the real scale of the problem in winter. And we have the spreadsheet where it's calculated based on very poor quality, guesstimated data. Another matter that's come up is the new national wastewater standards that the government is bringing in. We do not think that these new standards are a reason for further delay, and the hearing panel has also told the council they're not a reason to defer the applications for the discharge consents. It's only a consultation document that's out at the moment, likely to be controversial with uncertain outcomes and to take time to resolve. And our view, having read through the draft standards, is that land irrigation on these sites in Robinson's Bay will be even more difficult to achieve under the new national standards than they are now. So what do we want? We're asking you to now finally abandon this land irrigation idea. You've been looking for 17 years, since 2007, for a land irrigation system, and it is just not feasible. We're now talking about costs of well over 107 million that's been budgeted. That's over 100,000 per property connected. And what hasn't been talked about, and the real elephant in the room, is the ongoing operating costs of this hugely complicated condition, which would be very high just from the pumping costs and the management costs before you even add in any onerous consent conditions that are likely to be applied to the land irrigation. And we want to see you stopping work on those sites in Robinson's Bay, not putting good money after bad and planting over 100,000 further seedlings out there. And we would like to see that consent application withdrawn now. Enough ratepayer funds have been wasted. There have been huge changes to the application since it was lodged, and further delay is unreasonably burdensome on the community. And we would like you to refocus the budget, that's 596 in the draft annual plan, onto assessing alternatives for the wastewater disposal with a focus on the environment, on climate resilience, and on the simplicity of operation. We want you to put in a system that's going to work for the next 50 years when we know we are going to have the ravages of climate change hitting both our infrastructure and our council budgets. So options that seem reasonable sitting on the table at the moment that are discussed during the hearing are a mid-harbour outfall with that cultural treatment through a wetland. If it's good enough to go into Children's Bay, it should be good enough to go into the harbour with the same level of wetland treatment. Or an ocean outfall, which gets it right out of the harbour altogether. Oh goodness, sorry. Or the deep bore injection. We want you to undertake a comprehensive repair of the sewer pipes. That job has to be done sometime or other. You can't have these leaking pipes. And to choose an appropriate treatment system, treatment plant, once you have decided what your disposal environment is and once you've got the I&I down and you know what you're dealing with. And finally, to engage in genuine consultation with the community. No more spin, but coming out and actually tapping into that deep level of expertise that we have about this in our community. And on that note, we would be very happy to meet with you in a separate forum to discuss this further. So happy to take questions.
Or I'd like to have another minute if you would indulge me, please, and I'm happy to give you those from my own time to follow, because I think this is a really
you're next,
important...
aren't you? You're Jan.
I'm Jan Cook,
that's right.
Yeah. I think because I think this is a very important point and this is a very big issue. So I listened to Harry Stronach on Tuesday, and he talked about the financial cost, but there's also been an enormous cost in voluntary time and the emotional toll on individuals and the community. And what I want to say is we've really appreciated the effort that the hearing panel has put into actually understanding the issues and giving submitters the time that they need, treating them with respect and asking probing questions, and also acknowledging the personal toll of the process. And I think the council ought to learn from this and listen to those with knowledge. So can we all please now get around the table, as Suki has asked?
Absolutely. Now, is that the end of your bit? Oh, sorry. Okay. Is there any questions? No. I must say that's a very well put together presentation. It's very clear, and so I thank you for all the work you've done on it, and it will be looked at, I'm sure. So thank you for coming in.
Thank you. It's yours.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Joanna, here.
Sorry, I have a personal submission, which will be very brief.
Oh, sorry. No, that's right. I've got
on an
confused.
only slightly related topic, and I'm not even sure if the annual plan's the right place to ask for this, but I was coming anyway, so I thought I'd bring it up. And it struck me when we spent 4 days at the Gaiety Hall as part of the wastewater hearings, 4 long days, and what was a real problem was that there is no internet availability there. As the town's main meeting place, I think that that you charge community groups and others a decent rental on to use it. It would be really useful in this day and age if we could have Wi-Fi available at the Gaiety Hall, and I've conducted a bit of an informal survey since then of people that are using the hall, and they all agree that it would be helpful. I mean, it would have been helpful for the ECAN staff that were trying to set up streaming and things like that from those hearings. It would just be better than individual submitters having to set up hotspots from their mobiles and pay for data themselves to present to something that's actually in the public interest. So, I don't know why the Gaiety doesn't have Wi-Fi, but it's time that it did.
But, yeah, that's right, because it's going right past the door, isn't it, out on the street?
I presume the council gets a pretty good rate on these things.
But, so, I know exactly what you're saying. So everyone's in the 21st century, so we should be helping everyone out as much as we can.
Yeah,
so,
and perhaps not the Gaiety Hall, just the Gaiety, but all of these places where the community needs to congregate. So that's really all I have to say on that one. Please look into that. Maybe I need to talk to the community board, but I sort of talk to you guys while I was here.
Yeah, good on you. No, thank you.
Thank you.
Right, Joanna, please.